We're back like we never left. Uh, really excited about this OTBS Prep News exclusive we're having here today. I don't know anyone who has done this. I don't know anyone who has tried to do this, but we're grateful that it's us. We're definitely grateful that it's us. We're definitely grateful that our guest this morning is here with us. He is, when I did my research, the words that came back to me was honest, honorable, caring, and devoted. All those say that you are a person of character. Not a character, but a person of character. There's a difference. There's a major difference. But you'd have to be in the game to understand that. Some of y'all won't ever understand it or get it. Please welcome our guest this morning, Assignment Secretary for the Shreveport High School Basketball Officials Association, Mike Theus. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, I'm honored. It's honorable. I just got a text message saying what time is the show starting this morning? It's now. It's right now. We're here.
That better not be JP Bouillon either.
you saw that, did you saw the comment last night?
Yeah.
See that? Yeah. See that, JP? He never gonna hook Sacred Heart up again.
Well, you know, he's moved on. He's at Marksville now.
Why you drive across the street, JP? JP, you could have walked across the street, bro. You ain't have to drive. Nah, JP cool, man.
Yeah. He I've been knowing him for a long time. He actually coached in our program.
Okay.
So,
man, let's start off by telling the people who Mike Theus is.
Well, I am a Coachella High School, now / Red River High School graduate.
No. There you go. Boy, you find something new every day.
Went to school at Louisiana Tech, studied biology. I came to Shreveport after leaving Louisiana Tech and got involved in the YMCA. I was a youth sports director there for a little bit. And then that's where I got involved in AAU basketball. And from there, I went on to start working at a hospital here in Shreveport in physical therapy department, and I've been here 30 years.
Okay, cool. Congratulations on that. Congratulations. Hey, man, that's a long time to be rubbing people's bodies, man. That sounded worse than what I meant in my bad. My bad.
We call it pulling and dragging.
Okay, yeah, man. That sounded real bad once I heard it leave my lips, man. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Man, let's start here. I think this is a great place to start. You were the primary starter of a really popular, effective, efficient AAU ball club along the I-20, I-49 corridor. Where'd you get the idea to go in that direction?
Okay. You might be too young to know this, but back in the day when I was at Louisiana Tech, they had a magazine called Streets and Smith.
I heard of it.
And Streets and Smith used to publish every year, and they would talk about all the colleges and universities in the country. And I would buy it because I wanted to know who Louisiana Tech was signing, where they were going to be picked in the Southland Conference at that time. And in the back of that magazine, they would rank the top 25 high school kids in the country. and then they would do all Metro. Uh, so every year I'd read the all Metro for Louisiana. It was mainly New Orleans kids, but every now and then there was a couple of Shreveport kids sprinkled in there. Uh, and I was wondering, how did those kids get ranked? And so I started doing some research, and someone told me, "Say, hey man, they got to play AAU." And so I started asking around town, and every kid that was capable of playing AAU always went to play on a team in New Orleans. So I said, well, we need to start one here. And so in 1991, I got started with a team in Shreveport, and we wasn't very good. We wasn't very good. Our first tournament was in Morgan City, Louisiana, and I didn't even know how to get to Morgan City, Louisiana, but we found it. And we didn't do very well. Second year, I beefed up the roster a little bit, thought we were very good, and we ran into a monster at Family Christian High School named Lester Earl. And he probably set a record of dunks on us. So, and so the next year, I said, I got to beef this thing up a little bit more. And we went that year we finished third in the state. And then the following year, we ended up winning the state championship. The state championship in the AAU, and so we became successful after that. And I think it was 1997. A friend of mine was coaching at the University of Minnesota, and he said, "Man, we got to get you with one of these shoe companies." And I said, "I have no idea how to do that." And so the next day, Sonny Vaccaro called me, and a guy from Reebok called me, and Don Crenshaw from Nike called me. And later that day, George Raveling called me from Nike. And that's how I chose Nike. And that's how we got our national recognition from being on the Nike circuit. And I was telling the guy the other day, what people don't understand is I was in the room where we voted to start the EYBL. A guy named Mike Hackman that was working for George Raveling came to us and said, hey, man, we got to start some kind of league. Because our format's not working for the teams that are being chosen for Peace Jam. So we got to start some kind of league. And so we started the EYBL league. And so that's my extension of summer basketball.
Can you talk a little bit about, because a lot of people think they know, but only if you were in the room, what the intent of the EYBL was meant to be and how it actually works. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, the EYBL was brought to fruition by Nike to promote their brand, the schools that they service, and the kids that were going to their schools that they service. And so to me, it was a unbelievable model that they came up with. What was happening at first was you had to go to these tournaments to make it to Peace Jam. So let's say Houston Hoop had a tournament. You had to go to that tournament and finish in the top 4 to make it to Peace Jam. What was happening was, and I'm not throwing any shade at anybody, but the Houston Hoops would make out the bracket. And so, you know how that went. Little old Louisiana Select would have to go through Boo Williams, all Ohio Red, all them teams to try to make it to the Final Four, and the Houston Hoops over there playing, team,
YGLA. No, my bad, YGLA.
Yeah. See that you gonna get in trouble this morning.
Man, it was just a joke, bro. It was really just the first. When you said why, that was just the first team that came to mind. It was just a joke. If they can't handle a joke,
right?
That's
they'll be fine. But so they had to change that format, and that's how the EYBL came about. Was to give teams a chance to play each other, different cities, and to determine the top 24 from that format.
Has the EYBL circuit been watered down since its inception?
I don't think so. I think it's actually gotten a little better.
Okay.
I think so. You know, now there's other leagues popping up, and it's spreading everything out. But I think the EYBL has stayed consistent with the players, the top players in the country playing in their program.
So you start off owning Louisiana Select All Stars, and at what point in that within that process did you become a high school sports official?
Well, when I started Louisiana Select, I was just trying to go to games and see games here and there, and so I was thinking, what better way for me to see players if I start refereeing? That way that I can go to different games in different areas and see the players that I'm trying to see and actually get a chance to see them in action the whole
Right.
game. And so that's where the refereeing and the Louisiana Select tied into each other.
How much did officiating, having the Nike contract, uh, make it easier for you to get some of the best players across the region or metroplex that you were trying to recruit?
Well, it made it a lot easier because it not only the region or the metroplex, I was able to get kids from all over the state. When prime example, I was able to convince. Well, I didn't convince, but Hollis Price played at St. Aug, now coaching at played at Oklahoma, now coaching at the University of Houston. Bernard Griffin, who I did not know, called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I got this little guard that want to play in your Nike program." I said, "Well, coach, he's passing up a lot of programs to come to Shreveport." And he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. He'll be there." This kid would get on a bus on Friday evenings at 5 o'clock, ride 8 hours on Greyhound to get to practice for Saturday morning and Sunday, and then we put him back on the bus on Sunday evenings, and so that he could be back home for school on Monday. And Coach Bernard said he never missed school on Monday,
Wow. You
and that was an 8 hour bus ride
right,
each time.
right. You from the research I've done and the people that I talked to, uh, you were known as being an extremely fair basketball coach as far as how you treated the kids, the way that you coached the game, the way you looked at the game. How much did being and becoming a high school basketball official help your knowledge, understanding, IQ in coaching on the Nike circuit, and how were you able to transfer that information to the kids that played for you?
Well, uh, talking about fairness, I knew that in order to survive in the EYBL, you couldn't be you could not be fair. I mean, if you had the best players and on in your program, no matter where they from, you had to put the best product on the floor. And the thing that we tried to do was we tried to reach out to every kid and tell them their role in the program. You know, everybody can't shoot, everybody can't dribble. You know, so we had to define their roles to let them know what they were going to be able to do in order for the program to be
Right,
successful and for that individual to be successful. I learned that from a good friend of mine, Johnny Simmons, who happens to be Paul Millsap's uncle. And when he was coaching with us, he said, "Man, we got to define these kids' role so that they'll know how they fit into this program, and they can decide whether this is for
right.
them." You know.
You're a young high school basketball official. How did you know, or at what point did you know that officiating was what you were supposed to be doing as well?
Well, when I started out, I went to top 28.
Okay.
And it was something about those guys walking out of that tunnel. Everybody's eyes was on them. Um, how they approached the game as professionals, uh, and how their influence on that game, of managing that game in a professional way. I knew that that was something that I wanted to do at a high level. And so I started researching how to get to that level, you know, to be a good official, to be a good high school official, and to be a good junior college official. And so that's where, just it was just something about seeing those guys walk out of that tunnel and carry themselves, and the way they carry themselves is what I wanted to be. And same thing with if I can throw this in there, the same thing with my AAU program. The first year we went to nationals, I saw Boo Williams walk in and how he had his team dressed, how he was dressed, how they acted in the gym, how they acted in warm up. And I went up and told him, this was before I was a Nike team. I went up and told him, I said, I want my team to be just like your team. And so that built a friendship with he and I, because he called me. He found my number somehow and called me and said, I appreciate you coming to say that about my program, and anything I can help you with, I
Right.
will.
When you look at, you just spoke about Boo Williams being a mainstay. I think he has 40 plus years in AAU. Uh, did you know you would become a mainstay in high school officiating?
I didn't, but I wanted to. And so I knew that I was going to have to work at it to get to that point. Um, in order to be a mainstay in high school officiating, you have to own your craft. That's knowing the rules, being professional, being
Right.
approachable, uh, being a teacher on the
Right.
court, and managing the game.
Right. How long did it take you to understand how and when to apply certain rules? Now we're going to get into a choppy subject. Uh, Knowing
Okay.
how to apply the rules in what situations, it takes some guys a lifetime to understand that. Uh, what
And we talk about that a lot in our meetings. There's some guys that make 100 on the test every year, but
don't do it.
cannot
Don't do
apply
it.
those
Don't do
rules.
them. Don't do them. Don't do
So
them. Don't do them.
but it's
It's
the
the truth.
truth. But do not know how to apply common sense to the game. So you got to be able to do both. You know, there's going to be some games that are not going to be
Right.
perfect, but you have to be able to apply the rule and common sense to
Right.
that game to make that game the best that it can be that night.
Let's talk a little bit about the hardest call, not just in high school basketball, not just in the collegiate or the showcase elite circuit or in the pros. Let's talk about the block charge. Uh,
Okay.
that rule microly has changed. I think that's the right word.
Yeah.
Primarily, there hasn't been like that's the only rule in high school sports to where it hasn't changed that much since its inception and creation. It
That's
just
right.
changed to the matter of verticality. Uh,
Hmm.
how can you help someone be better at understanding what the black block charge means in today's high school basketball game?
Well, first of all, in high school, the fans don't understand that the high school, college, and professional block charge is
Right.
totally different. When I say how we
Right.
referee it, in high school, you can be
Right.
under the goal and still receive a block
Right.
or charge. Whereas in college, you have to be outside
Right.
the arc, or you 9 times out of 10 in college, if you're inside the arc, it's going to be
Right.
a block. You know, and we know in professional, you can never be under the goal, and you have to be outside the dotted circle. But high school is the only place that block charge when a player is going to score can be at any point on that under that rim in that lane. Yeah.
Also, if a player goes up in the air, takes flight, and the defender isn't there and set before that player takes flight, that's gonna be a block.
You, sh- you should wear your hips out. Hitting your hips. You should be wearing your hips out. Because the first thing they tell you when you go to any camp, when you're refereeing a block charge, is you always referee the
Right.
defense. When I'm in lead, and when I say lead for the people that are not familiar, lead is the guy that's on the
Right.
baseline. When I'm in lead and that play is coming to me, I find that defender, okay, and seeing what he's doing, okay, and then I find that offensive player. If that offensive player has taken flight and that defender is trying to scoot under him, got to wear your hips out. Okay?
Talk a little bit about block charge and cohesion with verticality.
Ooh.
Just a little bit.
That sometimes that's a tough one because again, you start out refereeing
Right.
the defense, okay, seeing what the defender is, and if he's got verticality, okay, before that offensive player takes flight, it can be a charge. He does not have to be on the floor. Now the book says that he can move. The only thing the defender cannot do, according to the book, is move
Right.
forward. Okay, he can move obliquely, which is side to side, or he can move back, or he can be verticality, but he cannot move forward once.
And he does not have to be a 1956 official and take the knee to the chest. I mean, defender and take the knee to the chest. Like a lot of
Absolutely not.
people still call block charge to where if the guy doesn't sit there and get his chest clavicle caved in, that it's a block. No.
No, no. He can even actually turn to absorb some of the contact, you know, and still, as long as he gain legal guarding position, that's the best term that you can remember is legal guarding
Right.
position. You know, as long as he gain legal guarding position, he can take that charge however what. And he does, like you said, he doesn't have to take the knee to the chest and be on the floor for 10 minutes. You know, he can turn to absorb that contact and still be awarded a
Yeah,
charge.
I like this, bro, because now we get to add something else to the conversation. The difference between legal guarding position and being closely guarded.
Hmm.
Talk about that.
Okay, closely guarded. Now, some of the things that people don't understand, I'll see where the kid is standing, where the ball handler is holding the ball. I'm going to use this example, holding the ball, and the kid just puts his hand out,
Right.
you know, trying to take up that 6
Right.
foot. Well, now you got to decide if he's really trying to guard or is he really trying to get you to count.
Every time it's to
Yeah.
get you to count.
Yeah, every time it's to get you to count.
If he's bent over with his top flapped over and his hand extended, that's not defending.
Yeah. That's not defending. So, a lot of times that's what the kids want you to do is start that count where he's not guarding. He's not guarding.
One of the things that, like, I've been angry about this watching games. No, it's real spill, Mike, because officials call it unjustly, and for a kid that's playing defense the right way, it's unfair to them. So offensive guy
Mhm.
has the ball, he's bobbing his head, he uh, goes in, throws his hands up, pops his arm up, toots his whistle, and he calls a foul on the defense. Well, first off,
Mhm.
that should be a technical on the offense because it's a mockery of the game. This is what it is. Like the offensive
Yeah.
guy created the contact and then he flops.
Mhm.
How can we teach officials to see that better?
Well, that's the thing that we try to work on is get in position to see the
Right.
whole play. Okay. And what I mean by the whole play, get in the middle there. Is that offensive player swinging his arms to make contact with the defender? If the defender's got his hands in, out trying to guard, is the offensive player creating that? If you get in position and get angles to see that, then you'll know that's not always a
Right.
foul. Sometimes it's ugly, but it's not always
Right.
a foul.
How important is it from an official standpoint? Because we see this a lot too. Um, Officials can't see between the gap. It's always a safe space for an official. If you take one step to your left or one step to your right, that will help you see that even though a guy extends his hand defensively, that it's not a foul. But because you're directly behind the offensive guy, and we see that quick reach, we're calling a foul.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we try to teach our younger guys is learn the difference between seeing between and
right,
straight line. If you seeing nothing but his backside, then you're
right,
straight
that's
line.
right,
So you have to get a better angle to see between so that you can see both players and what the action is happening. You know, straight line, that means you're flat footed. That means you're flat footed and you're not moving. Uh, Especially if you're on the ball, if you're the referee
right,
that's guarding the ball, you gotta move so that you can see. Because these kids nowadays are they got everything in their
right.
bag, you know, and so you got to be prepared for whatever they throw at you. And the only way you're going to be prepared is if you get in angles that you can
Right.
see it.
Um, you started, the game was a lot slower. And no disrespect to the young men that played back then. They were phenomenal athletes. They were much tougher, in my opinion. They played the right way. Although you had some dudes like me who were
Mhm.
just hard headed, um, still played with an air of aggression, um, just gave their all. The change of going from two-man officiating to three-man officiating, I know the answer, but how great was that for high school basketball?
It was to me it was the best thing that happened with the change of the game where the kids have gotten faster,
Right,
stronger, more craftier, more more adding more things to the game, because there's some things in two man, that you're just not going to be able
right.
to see because it's going in two man, even in two man, that's going to require you to have some dual
Right.
coverage. And so now who's got
And
the
and
off
that'll
ball?
be the right side of the trail official from the division line all the way to the baseline and half that court,
Right.
because if the ball is in the left corner or even sometimes the right corner and the lead official is ball side, then both of those set of eyes have to be on the ball, which leaves the back door unlocked.
That's right. That's right. Yes, prime example. If you got a guy out there dribbling out front, he's trying to get his postman to come to block side, in two
Right,
man, um, and so now you got the lead official on the trail official on the ball.
right,
So now here goes this big postman to the block on the opposite side of where lead was. Now he's got to help out on that postman. So now he's closing down, trying to get as close to that play as he possibly can. And like you said, the back door is
right,
open now, and you got all kinds of illegal screens going on over there. And so you're trying to watch out the corner of your eye what's going on over there on the back door, but then you got these two post people down there, wrestling in the post.
right,
You know, so now once they added that third official, now that lead official can go all the way
right,
across, turn and look
right,
in. Now you got another official over there on the offside, on the weak, as we call it, the weak side in the
right,
slot. He can take care of all that stuff on the backside and help with anything that comes to the
right.
lane.
And now the lead doesn't have to rubberneck and
That's
try
right.
to see across the court when those 4 or 5 steps, depending on how tall you are super instrumental in calling a foul or a flop on the block
That's right.
opposite side that becomes ball side for the moment, even if it's a rotation within the officials. Um,
Right.
you mentioned this. Tell me this. Time and distance. Give me that one. What's it called?
Uh, Give me an example.
You need
What you talking
these
about?
two things for the play to be legal: time
Okay.
and distance.
Well, you have to give the offensive player with the ball a chance to turn, make a play,
Yeah.
get a step. It's almost like football,
The
kind of like
crackback
football.
rule.
Yeah, it's kind of like football too. He almost got to make an offensive play for it to be legal, I guess you could say. So if he catching the ball, if he's coming on the break and they throw him the ball, you just can't. You got to give him a chance to catch it and get a step, before you can actually become in a legal guarding position.
What other rule applies to time and distance?
Hmm.
Some that we don't use very much anymore. I think the last two teams I'm gonna say that I saw use this to perfection was the 2020 Scotlandville Hornets and I think the 2019 Walker Wildcats, and that's the pick and roll. Pick and
Hmm.
roll, you need time and distance to set a legal pick.
Pick. That's
Uh,
right. That's right. That's right.
why has the game went away from the high pick and roll so much at the high school level?
I don't know if why that happened, but I think it's coming back, and a lot of the teams are using it in the dribble handoff, where they'll send the big guy up
Right.
to set a screen on the dribble handoff. So it's coming back a little bit, but the pick and roll is a hard thing to
That's right.
guard. You know, and I don't know why coaches don't use it more. We always had it in some phase in our AU program, uh, because we knew that most teams wasn't going to be able to guard it, especially if you had a good guy, a big that could roll and understand why he was rolling and where he needed to roll to, and if you had a shooter on that side,
Right.
you know.
Uh, give me 1 second. I need to do this real quick, Mike.
Okay.
Can you see that, Mike?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me. I want to be able to read. I'm gonna leave that up there for a minute, Mike, if that's okay. I'm not trying
Okay.
to block
Okay.
your wonderfully handsome face, man.
You try to block my
I
blessings,
say
don't
I'm
you?
not trying to. Stop playing. No, I'm trying to. I know where I had this located at, and I'm just trying to get back to this image so that I can read it while it's on screen for the viewers that are watching. This press release, news release came out maybe about 2.5, 3 weeks ago from the NFHS. It reads free throw procedures and foul administration amended in 2023-2024 high school basketball rules changes for immediate release. Beginning next year, high school basketball teams will shoot 2 free throws or 4 common fouls when in the bonus. This change to Rule 4-8-1 eliminates the 1-and-1 scenario and sets new foul limits in each quarter for awarding the bonus free throw. Rule changes were approved by the National Federation of State High School Associations Basketball Rules Committees at its annual meeting April 24th through 26th in Indianapolis. The recommendations were subsequently approved by the NFHS Board of Directors. In addition to awarding 2 foul shots for all common fouls, teams will reach the bonus when their opponent commits 5 fouls in each quarter, and teams' fouls will reset at the end of each quarter. Previously, teams were awarded the 1-and-1 bonus when their opponent committed 7 fouls and in a half, and 2 foul shots at 10 fouls were committed in each half. The rule committee studied data that showed higher injury rates on rebounding situations and saw this as an opportunity to reduce opportunities for rough play during rebounds, said Lindsay Atkinson, NFHS Director of Sports and Liaison to Basketball Rules Committee. Additionally, resetting the fouls each quarter will improve game flow and allow teams to adjust their play by not carrying foul totals to quarters 2 and 4. Let's talk about it, man.
You know, the NCAA women's basketball has been doing this for a couple of years now. And so I assume that we're following that model of the NCAA women's. Now, my friends that all do women's basketball, they like it. I haven't had an opportunity to ref this kind of basketball before, where you start the foul count over. But it's going to be interesting to see how high school coaches adjust to it, especially later in the game when you're trying to, back in the day, late in the game, you were trying to foul to get them into a 1-and-1 so that you'll have a chance that guy may miss one and, have a chance to secure the rebound. And so it's the same as the NBA. They start at 5 also.
Right. Does coaches that's gonna see this, don't take my words and make them to what you want to be. I'm giving you this disclaimer right now because some of y'all are just sensitive, and what I'm about to say isn't meant to be in a disrespectful manner. Are we going to see better defense now that sometimes fouls come quick and in bunches? And when you say, when the rule says now that you're going to be in after the 5th foul in a 2-shot shooting situation, can we expect to see better on-ball defense without just, guys committing dumb fouls?
Well, it should encourage teams to play better defense, because now, like you said, when you get to that 5th foul, you're going to be shooting 2 the rest of the way. So it should encourage teams to play better defense. Did I say that politically correct?
I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's a politically correct way to say that, because again, at the end of the day, someone is going to take offense, and it's not meant to be offensive. It's just what we've seen over the years.
Mhm.
And as it said in the memorandum, that before 7 fouls, you're in the single bonus. At the 10th foul, you're in the double bonus. And
Mhm.
guys that don't foul a lot and it's a tight game, and then you get to the last 2 minutes of said game, and now every 3 seconds, foul, foul, and now you've completely screwed the floor of the game.
Mhm.
And that's what makes basketball probably the greatest sport ever, is being able to influence the floor of the game by just letting guys play. But when every 3 seconds you're, committing a foul on purpose, which the rule says is against the rules,
Mhm.
like, you're just gonna, to me, a better brand of basketball now. Um,
Yeah.
and then you don't want to give up 10 points in a row after committing said fifth foul. By committing, guys would have two. You've seen this 1,000 times. Guys in a close game only committed 2 fouls, and now they're just trying to stall to get the ball back in that 1-on-1 situation. They're just committing fouls because they know they have 5 to give.
Right.
How much better, again, is this going to be for basketball?
I think it's going to be better for basketball because, like you said, it's going to encourage teams to play uh, better defense, not commit fouls that are unwanted to the
Right.
game.
Uh, every year they have nuance rule changes. Um, and I'm sorry, NFHS and LHSA, for calling the point of emphasis rule changes nuances, but I think some of them are, like, a couple of years ago. They wouldn't even start the game if every kid's shirt wasn't tucked, and then they're stopping game flow to make kids put their tops back in. And then another one I thought that was really funny was you had to wear the same tights as the primary color of the uniform one year, and then the next year you could wear any color tights. And then it was, what was the other one? I thought that was really funny. Uh, now I'm going to think of it in a minute, but give us some point of emphasis rule changes that are worth.
Well, the one that I like that they changed this year too, that'll help us as officials, is the undershirt.
Okay.
Because for instance, let's say I'm trying to think of a team in your area. Um, I think Dunham. What color? What color is
Maroon and
Dunham?
white.
Okay, say maroon. They're away team and they wearing maroon. Okay. It's hard to find an undershirt that's
Right.
maroon. Okay. So now the new rule says he can wear a black shirt under that
Okay, yeah.
undershirt.
That's a
Under
good
that
rule,
uniform.
because that primary color, especially on the
Yes.
girls' side, having to
Yeah.
have kids to wear the primary color of said uniform. And again, in some areas, hell, kids just glad to have an undershirt. You
Yeah.
know,
Now he can't wear a white shirt under that maroon.
huh?
But he can't wear a white shirt under that maroon. It has to be a dark color.
So you can wear a blue shirt under the maroon, but not a white.
Depending on how blue it is.
Oh, the other nuance rule was, I know when I was officiating, kids couldn't wear long sleeve shirts under their top set at all. And now
Mm-hmm.
kids go get a medical, and they can wear a long sleeve shirt every night if they want. Um,
Yeah. And then we have some kids up here that have some religious beliefs that they are allowed to wear the long sleeve shirt. And you know, even last year, if that long sleeve shirt matched that color, they're more than welcome to wear it.
Okay. Um,
But I remember back in the day when we were playing, you couldn't wear it, at
I'm
all.
laughing. I'm laughing, Mike, because we're at this point now where some people love them, some people hate them. Uh, how tough is it being a high school basketball official?
To me, if you're properly trained, you know your craft, you know your rules, you go out there and be as professional as you possibly can. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And that's one thing that we've talked about this in the last couple of months since I've become the new RCO of Shreveport is training our guys that they know the rules, professionalism, and have enough experience on the court that they anything that anybody throw at them, it won't be a
Right.
problem. I think that if you properly train and know your rules, one thing we always talk about, you can fool some of these coaches with your mechanics, all your fancy mechanics, but you can't fool them with these rules. So you better know. You got to know your rules.
I'm not gonna even touch that with a 10-foot pole. I already catch enough flack behind my thoughts on officials, but I love the officials. No, it's real spill. I officiated for 17 years.
Yeah.
It was the to me, an official is the best way to give back to youth athletics, because you're
Yes.
not only officiating the game, but you're giving the kids your character. Because, and no, again, no disrespect, some kids just don't have good coaches at the youth level, and so as an official, you knowing the rules in depthly, you can, hey man, that's not how you play defense, or
Absolutely.
hey, no hands, no hands,
Yeah.
no hands.
Yeah.
And now on the fourth time, when he stick his hands out there and he's guiding him, and you blow your whistle and you say hand checking, so now the coach says, well, damn, didn't he just tell you don't do that 3 times in a row? And that takes the fire off you and puts it back on who it needs to be on, the kid, because you just told him 3 times in a row, don't do that. What?
The one thing that I learned when I started going to college camp was they told us about
Right,
preventive officiating. And preventive officiating is, as much as you can talk that player out of getting in trouble, whether it's going to make your game go better. And the communication between you and the player will also tell that coach that you have that player's best
right,
interest in him staying in the
right.
ball game. And like you said, once you warn them and they continue to do the same thing, then you have to apply the rules.
I think that's one of the main things in today's officiating that a lot of guys don't do. They don't manage the game by giving that warning of no hands or no hand checking, or in the paint, don't, get your hand out their back. Like, or the easiest one in the world, hey man, you've been in the lane 3 seconds, right?
Mm.
Get out the lane. Like, blowing the whistle to
My,
stop the flow of the game behind telling somebody to get out the lane, to me, that's just dumb.
and college camps are what they tell you is no game interruptions. And they look at that as a game
Right.
interruption. Hey man, get out of the lane. Why are you standing in the lane? Because if I start counting, you're gonna be in trouble.
Well, if I start counting, you already
So
at two. Because I watch you stand there for 5 seconds already.
yeah, so you want to have the least amount of game interruptions that you possibly can. Talking to the players, communicating with the coaches. A lot. If you go over there, and I do this a lot. I go over there and say, "Hey, coach," when I get over, I don't stop the game. When I get in that area, "Hey, coach, I'm having problems with 24. Can you help me with it?" And so most of those coaches will address that player at that point, or um, make a sub for that player so that they can address him at that point. And to me, that's good game management, because now we got that player's attention and that coach knows why we're addressing that player for that reason.
Man, what are you guys doing new in the Shreveport area to help bolster officials registration, to get more young men of character to get into the officiating profession?
Well, one thing I told the group that interviewed me about 3 weeks ago when I got this job, one of my plans is I'm going to Southern Shreveport,
Mm-hmm.
LSUS,
Mm-hmm.
Bipsy,
Mm-hmm.
Centenary, uh, and I want to talk to all their players, men and women, and tell them about
Right.
officiating, how they can give back to officiating, how we can help and train them to be good officials. Uh, I don't think, I don't think, you know, it's not all about the money, but it is
Right.
about the money. You know, yeah. I don't think people know how much the next level
Right.
pays. You know, there was a guy. Oh shoot, I just would blank on his name. But 3 or 4 years ago, he made the most money ever as a college official. He made
Wow.
$330,000.
He was working every night.
Oh yeah, you would see him at LSU on Monday, and he'd be in Connecticut on Tuesday. You know, but you think about that, from November to April, he made $330,000. Now
Can I make a can I make another suggestion to
yes,
you?
sir.
Well, I actually have two. I
Okay,
actually have two. The first one is when you go to those colleges, don't just talk to the players that are playing, but talk to former athletes who can't play anymore
right.
because you know
Different
injury or what.
circumstances.
But like it's a lot of people that understand the rules for their sport of choice that they played. That again, if you were a wrestler in high school, but you're just going to college, but you were a pretty decent wrestler. Wrestling needs a lot of wrestling officials. Volleyball needs a lot of volleyball officials. If you were a fisher in high school, LHSAA has fishing.
Yes,
Like it's a lot of different sports that you can officiate in that's not named basketball or football that needs officials.
absolutely, absolutely.
The-
And we're short in every sport.
right,
We're short in every sport. And like you said, I'm not just going to talk to the players. I want to go and meet with their PE department, their PE head, and see if I can talk to the people in the classroom.
right.
There might be somebody in that classroom that's not on that court that may be interested in the fishing.
Yep.
And then another luxury that I have is uh, I want to go out to Barksdale Air Force Base.
Okay.
You got a lot of retired people out there that play pickup basketball out there, and so I want to expose them to officiating. We've had some of our best officials from Barksdale Air Force
Okay.
Base.
Shout out Barksdale Air Force Base. The other thing is in the training of young officials. Uh, I think one of the things that hurts with the longevity of young officials is the only requirement is a 10 game preseason work schedule. You know, you got to work 10 games to be able to officiate at the
Mhm.
varsity level, along with passing the test. You know, I don't even think they have it approved anymore. It's just registered and
Registered and
certified.
certified.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
but I think it would best fit young officials to have a veteran guy that's been officiating for 25 years and has a wealth of knowledge about officiating. Tell me a guy, y'all. I'm gonna use this guy because I know him. I know he officiated. From what I heard, and you know he was a good official. And as a man, I know he's a man of integrity, and that's Eddie Hamilton. Um,
Mhm.
say you got a guy like Eddie who officiated for a long time. You got three new guys. You put those guys under Eddie's watch, and so Eddie follows them to their games, and he don't give them no instruction during the game. Not even if he see them make the most egregious calls. But after the game, they review the tape the next day or
Mhm.
their next off day. They review film, and he says, "Hey, this is what you could have done better. This is what you could have done better. Hey, you did a great job on this. You did a great job on this. Let's just make sure we're putting more air under the whistle. Let's make sure that our mechanics aren't slouchy.
Mhm.
You know, let's make sure that we look the part in wearing our uniform. Make sure that, and I love this about some officials. You know, their shoes, even though they may have been wearing them half the season, you know, when they pull them off, they wipe them down, put them
Mhm.
back in their carrying bag, and then when they use them again before they pull them out, they get their little buffer and hit them.
Yeah.
That's
Can I tell you? Can I tell you what I started? When I became president here for our association, the thing that I started was a mentor program for our new officials because I knew that when I came in as an official, what I did was there was a guy named Ron Harris. He was doing D1 of women's basketball,
okay.
and another guy Gary Allen. Uh, I When they went to games, I went to games with them, whether it was a high school game or junior college game or D1 game. Hey guys, where y'all going tonight? I'm going with you. I sit in the stands. I wouldn't watch the game. I would watch them
Right.
and see what they were doing. So I knew that a lot of our new officials were getting lost in the shuffle when they came in and signed up.
Right.
You know, they were assigned some games here there. They wasn't comfortable with those games. They wasn't comfortable being on the floor, so they just kind of were like, this ain't for me. Okay. So what I did was I I I got with at the time it was Tar Martinez. He was the head coach at Captain Street.
Okay.
I said, "Can I take over your freshman and JV schedule?" And he said, "Of course." So what I did was I took those every first year official that came in. We went to my fitness center and we got in the dance studio in the mirror and worked on our
Right.
mechanics. I would tell them, I'll give them a scenario. We talk about what the mechanics was for that scenario,
Right.
and I have each one of them blow their whistle and give me that mechanic.
Right.
So we did that for weeks at a time. Then I would go and say, let's say Bossier High School. I go, hey coach, when y'all going after practice? Are you gonna run up and down? Yeah, we are. Can I bring some new referees over, and we go and let them put some whistles on some plays?
Right.
Okay. So then I get a couple of veterans to come with me. We do it first, and then we ease them into it.
Right.
Okay. Uh, so so if they had a play, you know, we start out, hey, get a whistle on it first. We'll deal with the mechanics later.
Right.
Okay. We just want you to blow the whistle first. So then we started with that. Once the season started, I would take over that freshman JV schedule. I would assign each one of those officials a game in Capitol Street.
Right.
You know, so if I thought one was a little more advanced than the other one, they may would have the JV game.
Right.
Okay. But if there wasn't, they'd have the freshman game. So what we would do is we put them out there, like you said, let them trial and error, and then I would have Coach Martinez have a student film that game,
Right.
and we would watch that game on huddle to talk to them about what they could do better, what we should have had a whistle, what we shouldn't have had a whistle, hustling, angles, whatever.
Right.
So that was our training program for, and we were started seeing retention of our officials go way up.
Right.
Okay. The next year, so now he's a second year official, and he's going to get freshman JV games. Okay. So what we do is I would work with the assignment secretary at that time and say, hey, coach, we need to make sure Steve get with this veteran official in that freshman JV game.
Right.
So now that I know that Steve was going to get training from that veteran official, and then that veteran official will report back to me, hey, he's ready for a varsity game. So now I can go back to our assignment and say, hey, you can put Steve in a varsity game with two veteran officials, and he'll be all right.
Right.
But so now they're getting training on from mechanics to just starting out blowing the whistle to games. And what even made it better was those games at Capitol Street, we were paying them for those games.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were getting paid for those games. And we would do 2-man and 3-man.
Okay.
So we started them out 2-man so that they could get the layout of the court.
Right.
And then we'd move them into 3-man. So it may be 2 rookies and myself out there doing 3-man.
Right.
You know, and so that's how we've been doing our training program here in Shreveport for our veterans. I mean, I think the most we had one time, we had 17 new officials, and we were able to retain 14 of those.
Right. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I want.
And let me say about those 14 real quick. About those 14, 7 of them are calling college basketball now.
That's what's up, man. That's awesome. I want to shout out an official in the Shreveport Officials Association, my guy, Gakarion Tank McDonald, young official who has a very bright future ahead of him.
That's my kinfolks.
I'm not gonna hold that against you, bro. I'm not gonna hold that, Mike.
Let me say something about Tank. Tank played AAU for me also, and so I've been around him for a long time. His dad's an official also, so Tank has a bright future.
Yes,
in this game. Now we got to get him to understand that he's got to look the part. Okay, we have to beat him side the head about that beard.
No, it's not the beard for me, bro. It's not the beard for me. It's some tight ass pants he be wearing.
I'm not messing with that. I'm not messing with that. But you know, a young guy like that, we got to keep him with mentors that are going to keep pushing him, keep forcing him to get the rules down, keep forcing him to use common sense out there on the court. That kid has a bright future.
I agree with you 100%, man. Hey, man, our time is up, man. We're 4 minutes over. We're 4 minutes over. I apologize. Sometimes the conversation is just really good, man.
Last thing before you cut me up, last thing I want to say thank you for what you've done for high school kids in this area or in this state with this on the off the bench. You brought attention to kids that may not have been able to get that attention. You brought attention to coaches. You brought attention to high school programs. You brought attention to sports in general in Louisiana. And thank you. Thank you. Well. Much needed. Much needed.
That means a lot coming from, a guy of your stature, and your shadow is big, long, and wide. Again, like I said in your introduction, You are well respected by a lot of people. You've helped a lot of people become officials. You've helped a lot of people become coaches. You've helped a lot of people become trainers in the Shreveport Bossier Metroplex area and the I-20 and I-49 corridors. Uh, I want to thank you um, from the bottom of my heart because, again, I don't know if an official has ever been on someone's podcast and talked as uncandidly as you have in this hour. And that means a lot to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that it enlightens somebody
Right.
about officiating and want to be a part of what we do. I'm telling you, if you ever get in and you get in the right way, you not, because I'm already missing it. You know, I can't officiate with my guys
Right.
anymore. You know, because it's not
Right.
allowed. So I'm already missing. I talked to them all that, man. I'm gonna miss going to games with y'all. I'm gonna miss being out there with y'all. So, but again, thank you for having me. When you reached out to me, I knew that I couldn't say no, and
I
I'm
really
glad you
appreciate it too,
invited me.
Mike, man. Prep News family, man, please, again, we want to thank Mike Theus. He is the assignment secretary. Again, 3 weeks into the job, I know he's going to do a great job because what people don't know, he really did it for the last 2 years because the guy that was the assignment secretary at the time, I think his name is Francis.
Saint
Yes,
Andre.
had been dealing with some health issues, and Mike was doing the job.
Yeah, well, we had a bunch of guys chipping in to help him to make it, to keep our association successful, and so, and he's a great guy. He's a former coach, and so he was a great guy to have. I think he was in for over 20 something years, and we were blessed to have him.
Right. So again, man, we want to thank Mike Theus. I want to always shout out to a couple of my guys in the Shreveport area, and first is Eddie J. Hamilton, the liberal Preston Ellis, and my big bro Kenny Sykes. I love all three of you men. I want to shout out to my girl, Coach Mary Ward. She just phenomenal to me. Coach Glow Williams, shout out to her, and also her husband, Coach Williams, who just became.
Well, he just got a promotion,
he's the new superintendent, I think, or something. Being the director of something within the director of high schools, I think it is.
Yeah, supervisor of secondary education.
So, congrats to all of those people I just named. Thank you, guys. Remember, get off the bench, get into the game.